Along the drive, European snowflake and three-cornered garlic herald spring. And soon amongst the flax leaves, an alien is producing monster flowers. This triffid is one of the first plants to flower in the garden, and it feeds the tui. Our kowhai trees are now large enough to flower, and the garden is better than I could have hoped for a few years ago, when the rabbits refused to allow us to grow anything other than masses of weeds. After our third year, I had considered giving up. The hebes, though, managed to establish, and one species or another is flowering throughout the seasons. The tui on our kowhai inspire a painting, but it's not as literal as it appears. A paint by numbers theme that questions how we value our environment. I watched tui on kowhai close by the house, as I imagined I would do when I first saw them down in the village soon after we arrived, 7 years ago. We have extended nectar availability to tui and bellbird now by many weeks. As the kowhai flowers go to seed, the riwa in the bush behind the house come into flower, and the birds move into the trees. I have planted an early flowering mountain flax that bridges the gap between the riwa and the larger varieties of flax that will flower soon. As their flowers open, they are at once attractive to tui. The tui and bellbird beak is a perfect match for these flowers. Even when diluted by rainfall and brimming over, I am surprised at how sweet is the nectar, although I probably shouldn't be sharing it with the birds. A new species has learnt to tip nectar from the flowers, but it is no more than a sparrow with its forehead covered in pollen, and it probably wouldn't be an effective pollinator. The larger New Zealand flax is now in flower, and the next in line to become the centre of attention. Another opportunistic non-native than mynah bird is making the most of these flowers. A defined patch of pollen on the tui's forehead labels it as the flax flower's natural pollinator. Well, I've planted flax all along the outskirts of this property, all around the fence lines, draws the birds out from the forest, so that they can feed a little bit further along these corridors, getting into other places they might not otherwise do. Tui, they're not so bothered about crossing farmland, but the bellbirds won't come out of the bush, not as easy as a tui anyway. And they come to feed upon these flowers. And so it seems, the cattle that were here about a week ago, they've had a real go at the stalks. One or two have been pulled off and they eat the leaves. Apparently they're medicinal. But never mind, there's plenty left for the birds, and they're coming here for only one thing, and that's the nectar contained within these flowers. And they're here every 10 minutes or so. They really don't miss a trick.